How goes the family? Welcome back to Larry's Anything Goes. Hopefully you guys are having an awesome day. Today's discussion I'll be talking about Games of Thrones. And most people thinking I might be geeking out on the whole Games of Thrones series and all that good stuff, but that's definitely not the case. Fan of the show, but I have not really watched the show that often within the past year, to be honest with you. But I am a fan of this show. I'm going to talk about what my favorite parts of the show really entail. And if you've never seen the Game of Thrones show, basically it's been around for a couple of years, and it was created. It's from a series of books from George R.R. Martin, best-selling book series, A Song of Ice and Fire. It's been brought to the big screen by HBO, and it's a nice story. The storytelling goes into medieval, mythological, fantasy epics, and things of that nature. And it's a depiction of two beautiful families, kings and queens, knights and renegades, liars and honest men. I mean, it's actually a pretty good show. I just don't have the time to really watch too many shows like that because I binge on YouTube videos. They're playing a deadly game for control of the seven kingdoms of Westeros, and they sit on top of an iron throne. That's basically the gist of the show. There's much more to it, much more of the characters' names and all that great stuff, but I'm not really getting into that. And here's the books by George R.R. Martin and all that great stuff. But I hear the books are way more in-depth than the show itself. I have not had the pleasure of reading the books, but that's what a lot of my friends who are very into the Game of Thrones have told me because they listen to the books, audio versions, I've read them, all that good stuff. So if you want to have at it, go for it. I'm really getting into this because familia es todo. Family is all there is, in a sense. Family is all. So what do I really mean by this? Well, I'm getting into this, and the main reason why I'm talking about this show is because there's one aspect of the show that I don't think a lot of people realize, or if they do, they don't talk about it because they like all the fighting scenes and the storylines and all that, and it's great. Trust me, you will not regret it if you have not seen the show. Check it out, binge on it for a day, and you'll be hooked. But one thing I will say that I love about this show is the family mentality of a capitalist and an immigrant all at the same time. They're all combined, man, and it's a beautiful thing. And I always give praise to people who immigrate to the United States because they come here with a different mentality and they raise their families on a different mentality, unlike a lot of Americans. Not dissing American culture, I'm just calling it like I see it. Now, what do I mean when I say this about the show? I mean that for the most part, all of the families sit down with one another of all ages, and they ensure that they have an economic understanding amongst one another. Economics is always at the forefront of the table, along with the honor and things of that nature, but it always goes hand in hand. It's always combined together. Whether they're going to war with different families, they're going to war with different families, kingdoms. There is a true economic understanding going on. Hold on one second. And of course, I would not forget to take this thing off, and not worried about it now, because the show must go on. You know what I mean, family? So anyway, sorry about that. But they had that understanding, and I don't think a lot of families in the United States are on code when it comes to that. They have a do-for-selfers mentality, which is great, but bring that group do-for-selfer mentality as a collective. It kind of sounds like an oxymoron, but bring it as a collective so that everybody can share and share alike to where it benefits the family on many levels. And that could be multiple levels, from living in the same houses, utilizing the same cars. It's how you have like a do-for-self mentality, but you're just using it as a family, as a collective. And growing up in Northern Virginia, I've seen every immigrant group do that, from buying houses together, commuting together, things of that nature, utilizing each other's cars when it comes to childcare, selling and buying to one another. Like, there's this collective mentality. Seen it with the immigrant community in a big way in Northern Virginia growing up here, and I'm sure it's the same across the United States. So having that and having those common interests can really help one out, even if somebody doesn't even have a high school education. I've seen it with my own eyes. So but that's just my personal opinion on that one. And it's kind of like, in a sense, a lot of other cultures around the world where outside of the methodical stuff, they want to ensure that there's a strong foundation, right? The honor of the family, the name is always on the table. Who they have relationships with, who they associate with, who their marriages are with, etc. I'm not saying I'm a fan of arranged marriages, but a lot of other cultures, it actually does work. And there's a financial benefit and a family benefit all at the same time. Everything is a negotiation. Put it like that. Everybody has a business-minded. More people have business-minded sense in other parts of the world than a lot of people in the United States, just because not everybody has the mindset of I'm just going to be a good employee and get a high education. They don't. A lot of people that are not from the U.S., everything is a business transaction. And that's why they make some of the best entrepreneurs are born within the U.S. and a lot of them are born outside of the U.S. because the mentality is everything starts with the mind, and then the education, and then the action and the implementation. So that's the same thing that kind of relates to Game of Thrones. People were born fighters, they were born kings and princes and princesses and things of that nature. And a lot of times they were put into situations where they were much strong, had to become much more stronger, whether they wanted to or not, in order for them to survive. And then the ones who were strong built relationships with others in order for them to become even more stronger. So it's all about that relationship and collaboration when you really boils down to it, And I think that's what I find the most fascinating about the show, because it can be how real life is for the most part if you look at it from that way. They're usually not worried about entertainment and what's happening. Things, the entertainment, the pop culture. They don't. It's a fantasy world, but you don't see these people are really concerned with that. Entertainment usually happens after they obtain the power and the financial claims, are collected. Partnerships are established. That's when they worry about. They have a reason to be entertained, to celebrate a marriage, to celebrate a partnership, to celebrate a dynasty. And that's the old saying of work hard, play hard comes into play. I see that in a lot of immigrant communities across the United States of America. And usually that is the mindset that they have, because like I tell people that, most people don't cross a sea or a border just to be normal. They could have did that back in their home countries, not being able to speak the language, or, they speak English as a second language. They came here to do better things. They came here for that American dream. They came here to be, quote unquote, different. So I like that, and I truly accept that. Kings and queens, they make different decisions. They have different mindsets, and a lot of times they have the same mindsets. And they constantly, as you see in the show, if you're familiar with the show, you will see that the men and women are constantly engaged in discussions, intellectual discussions, plans, strategizing, and implementation of those plans and whatnot. Not a lot of action behind those words, and there's a lot of deceit and things of that nature. But people have a mindset of a hustler in this show, hustlers and warriors and soldiers, ready to go to war when they have to, ready to enjoy life when they have to, ready to build when they have to. It's all those things that are all encompassing. And there's more that I could probably explain about this show, but that's just what I find very fascinating about the Game of Thrones show. A lot of families and friendships, discussions usually fall into categories that do not move people onto progression with a lot of people nowadays, and usually those conversations, I say it now and I'll say it to the day I die, just fall into the category of how was your day? What game did you see, or what video game are you going to play, and things of that nature? What celebrity drama is hot? All that stuff that doesn't affect anyone's life. Great example today, everybody's talking about one of the princes from the UK's child's name is Leroy. I saw it on Facebook. I'm like, don't really care. I'm happy that the baby was born healthy and all that great stuff, but why is that news? Like the fact that Steph Curry's wife is saying something about sexual lifestyle. One, I don't care. I've never met Steph Curry's wife. Don't ever plan on meeting them. Two, how does that affect my life? That's my mindset. That's a lot of entrepreneur and business people's mindset. How does that affect my life? Why do I care? Truly care. I'm not a 17-year-old. And I know a lot of 7, so I'm not really gonna say that, because I know a lot of people in high school who don't care about that. But I'm not some person that's so detached from my lifestyle that I want to worry so much about what another grown man or grown woman is doing, which doesn't affect my everyday life at all. So I'm just going to call it like I see it, you know. So as I said, I was like, I'm not even going to diss a lot of young people, because a lot of young people aren't even worried about it. So I'll leave it at that, you know. But that's the usual normal conversations, and those conversations don't get us anywhere a lot of times, unless you're trying to build rapport with other people in regards to what their interests are, but you try to form some sort of a business partnership, then that's a totally another, different story on that note. So, and maybe this is just the organizer in me, but a friend of mine tells me that a lot of people who immigrate to the United States have weekly, monthly, and yearly meetings, presentations, especially now with today's technology. They have organizational charts where families, friendships, partnerships, prosperity paths are outlined from the beginning, present, and the future, and where they're trying to go. So you have people that live in just normal, regular day lives. They work regular jobs. Sometimes they don't even have a high school diploma, or they don't have a college degree, but they might have a certified trade, or they might just have a business, just a small business. But they have like corporate meetings in their homes. Like everybody's been to a downtown major city somewhere where they see big high rises and big corporate buildings, landmarks and whatnot, where they're having their corporate meetings. But, I've heard of instances where people, regular family members and friendships, they're having corporate meetings at least once a month in their house. And there's an economic game plan behind those corporate meetings. There's a strategy, there's implementation, there's partnerships, there's agreements, there's all this stuff going on in people's homes, just regular working people's homes, but it's never really talked about, because they don't fall in the category of quote unquote being normal working people, because they not only live outside the box, but they implement their life outside of the box. They burn the box, as I always say. So that's just my opinion. And the corporate meetings can consist of what kind of yearly wins did the families and friendship have in 2018? What kind of economic wins does the families and the friendships expect to have at the end of 2019? Because we're in half the year right now. We're in May now. What do you expect your year to, how do you expect your year to end outside of surviving from an economic standpoint? That is the question of the day. What kind of economic wins do your family expect to have in 2020 and beyond? I outline my goals and visions. I write them down. I have them on my bedroom wall. I look at them every day, and I look at them before I get up, and I look at them before I go to sleep. There's strategies going on. The old saying is either you fail to plan or you plan to fail. And with everything, will everything work out with all of your plans? There's no guarantees, but there's no guarantees with even all the degrees and certified trades in the world. It will not ensure you victory and prosperity in life. However, when you're constantly planning and have the money coming to you from various family members, and they are sharing their intellectual properties and mindsets and one another so that it benefits everyone, these are the things that make the Game of Thrones, outside of the fight scenes, an awesome show. I think we can get into our comfort zones and just the surviving and that having a survivor's mentality has hurt a lot of people throughout the United States and around the world. Remember that gentrification, YouTube, social media didn't just happen. They went through a series of trials and tribulations, errors and successes and all that. This stuff doesn't just happen. The people who own properties and the companies have the choice to do what they want. And that is the power of ownership. And I'll end this video off on this note. I saw something D.L. Hughley said on the show on Vlad TV, and it was the realest thing I heard all day and probably all week and probably all year. He said the problem with a lot of people in the United States is that they get in their comfort zone, whether they're just working a job, the food that they eat, the conversations that they have, the education that they get, and they don't want to be surrounded by people who think differently than them. And they don't even realize that being outside of the comfort zone is one of the best ways to grow. He even used himself as an example. He said, he grew up in South LA and he lived in a place called Baldwin Hills, and I always love this because LA is my favorite city, in Baldwin Hills, California, and there was nothing but crime going on. And, and he was a star at this time. So his wife was like, we need to get out of here, because we worked this hard to get to this place and we're still around crime. Okay, so he didn't want to leave, but he said because he listened to his wife, he became a better man, and he looks at the world now outside of the 6 blocks that he grew up on, he looks at the world from a different lens now because he's been around the world. And that's the thing. A lot of people just get into this comfort zone and don't want to leave. And then they wonder why their life ends a specific way or is a specific way, because you can't be this. You just cannot stay the same. It's the same thing with Vlad. He even said, he's like, he grew up in the Bay Area in California, in Oakland, San Francisco area. He knew that what he wanted to do with his life, he needed to go to New York City. I grew up in the DMV, and a lot of people that came to the DMV come from other parts of the country and other parts of the world because they knew that the person that they wanted to become would not be that person in that area. They had to come here to the DMV in order for them to grow and prosper. And it goes the same thing with me. I know in my life, it's not the DMV. The DMV was the beginning, but it surely isn't the end. Heading to the West Coast, that's what it's all about for me. That's where my life is going to elevate to the place where I want it to be, you know, and it's just the beginning. And you have to ask yourself those specific questions, in my personal opinion. Wherever you're at now, is that's where you want to be for the rest of your life? And if there is another place you want to be, how are you truly, sincerely going to get there without you just hoping? Is there a written plan? Are you just going to take the leap and just do it? You know, the comfort zone is the death sentence, period. If I would have stayed in my comfort zone, my life wouldn't be the way it is now. And if I stay in the comfort zone that I'm in now, my life would not be the way I want it to be in the future. And a lot of people know what I'm talking about. I see a lot of great success stories on my Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter page, and I love it. And that's the only reason why I will friend request people. I like somebody's page. I'll share somebody's page because I want us all to live the life that we were meant to be. I want us to be better people today than we were yesterday, and etc. and so forth. So I leave you guys on that note. Stay positive, stay hopeful, but implement those hopes and dreams and aspirations. If you're going to pray on it, please, but put it into implementation. Okay, work must be done. Actions must be taken. New friendships and partnerships must be made. The world is big. If you're in the DMV, the world is bigger than the DMV. If you're in another part of the United States, the world is bigger than that part that you're from. If you're from another country, the world is bigger than your country. So that's just how I look at it. You know, I leave it at that. I mean, I just got my DNA back, and I found out that my ancestors come from Cameroon, and you know, I think it's a beautiful thing. Actually, can't wait to go there one day. The world is bigger than the United States, and we all have to take a bite out of the world, man. It's like life is too short. All these people are dying, and so many people just get set in their ways and their comfort zones that they don't want to elevate their lives to the best potential that it can be. And it saddens me when I hear that. And I'm not trying to get too deep on this video, but I mean, that's what it just boils down to. You see the greatest potential. Like a great example, the last I saw with Game of Thrones, Jon Snow didn't truly see his potential until he was put in a position where he had no choice. He was thrown outside of his comfort zone. And you have to do the same thing to yourself if you want your life to elevate to where you want it to be. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up. Please share. Check out my online store. And I hope you guys have a great week and keep the prosperity going. And thanks to everybody on my Facebook page for the 604 likes I have thus far. Hopefully my numbers will climb in regards to my YouTube page. So please subscribe to my YouTube page. I greatly appreciate it. And thanks for everybody that's been with me since day one. You guys are awesome. You take care.